Good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to our first select board meeting in standard time. So it's been dark for a long time. We're lucky we made it here on time. Roll call.
Capiello here.
Gibson here.
Scotia here. Bailey here.
And Trek here. We're all here. Ask you to stand and join me in pledge allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Review of the agenda. Any changes anyone would like to make?
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All in favor. Okay, public comment is next. I would remind everyone that speakers must be a resident of the town of Barrington, property owners in the town of Barrington, and or designated representatives who recognize civic organizations or business located in the town of Barrington. Speakers first need to recite their name and addresses for the record. Visitors should address their comments to the chair and the select board as a body and not to any individual member. Each speaker shall be provided a single opportunity for comment, limited to 3 minutes. Public comment total should be limited to 15 minutes. Visitors should not expect a response to their comments or questions since the select board may not have discussed or taken a position on a matter. Public comment is not a two-way dialogue between speakers, select board, and or the town administrator. I will preserve strict order and decorum at all select board meetings. Okay. Having said that, are there any comments from public comment from people in the room?
If you're participating virtually and you'd like to make a public comment, you can raise your hand in Teams or press *6 to unmute yourself. Wait to be recognized by the chair.
I have a few people online, but I don't see my hands raised to the phone.
Nor do I.
A few minutes, a couple of seconds, rather. Very good. Therefore, we'll close public comment. Public hearings, school board liaison report. I don't see anyone from the school board here. I'll report a little bit later when we talk about select board committee assignments. Budget presentation. Linda, please, let's start.
The table.
It might be easier.
Wherever you're more comfortable.
Yeah.
So as Linda joins us at the table, this is Linda Markowitz, the tax collector in the town of Barrington. I'll draw your attention to section 17 of your budget binder, which is available completely online. So barrington.nh.gov/2023 budget. All the materials the select board and the budget committee are reviewing in order to consider the budget are available at that webpage. And you have a copy of the advisory budget committee minutes in your packet where the tax budget with the other two budgets we're reviewing tonight were discussed. So when you're ready, Linda, I'll turn it over to you.
That I'm asking for more money in the budget. Property release and maintenance, they charge us. They give us a certain amount under the agreement for black and white copies and colored copies. And anything I go over, they charge separately on another bill. So it went over, it was 200. I went over it by 46.17, so it's close, but I know now that I'm in the new office, the new machine is, the new copier is by the service windows, and I know we'll be using that one more. The other two printers are by my deputy and my desk, and they're much older, and I'm not planning on replacing them. I think there's no one is sufficient for the office, and when they're gone, they're gone. But we don't I don't think we need them in our offices. The new machines working great. Newer.
Linda, you want to give your whole presentation or would you like questions as we go through?
That's up to you. If you want to ask a question about that.
While our minds are still on.
Yeah.
Mr. Bailey.
I have a question. When you said, the color, does the state require you to have some of your reports in color? Or can you
Not
just turn around and make
reports.
them all black and white?
Typically, when I'm writing an official letter to a taxpayer or whoever, I will do it with the color seal.
Thank you.
But
Appreciate
the
it.
rest of the copies are black.
Thank you.
The printing line, we're gonna have more bills go out into the more houses that are being built. And so the bills, the printing went over the printing line by 233 this year. Again, pretty close, but it's gonna be more this year. I've already got my warrant today and I believe it was 5,000, a little over 5,000 bills. So last year was 4,900, and when these new homes are finished, that will even be more, so there'll be more printing of bills. And other than that, the equipment line on the second page, I had 3,500 in for the budget for the new equipment, new desk for our office. We overspent it, but we're now back to $1, and there will be no more expenses on that. Questions?
Like postage is coming in lower than you anticipated.
It is, but I haven't been charged for the second bill yet. And that's another 12, actually 19.
I just think with printing and bills, postage will go up too. So.
And part of that too, one of the themes we've talked about for the past couple of years is the decrease in the delinquency rate. So more people are paying their bills on time. The really expensive postage are the lien notices and the deed notices. And so the fewer of those we're sending out because people they're paying their taxes on time, the lower the expenditures and the postage is. It's important to keep in mind that those expenditures are recovered on the revenue side, doesn't directly offset the operating expense. We collect it into the general fund. So they are offset eventually, but as more people pay their taxes on time, we send out fewer certified notices and spend less on postage. Hopefully a trend that will continue.
Out of here sometime.
Well, now that you've all agreed that she can have all the money that she wants, so you're not accused of buttering up. Linda is a fantastic baker, so I don't know, it might be easier for you to carry him around in the napkins there. You all listen, we got a kitchen here now and good food.
Scary stuff. Nice job.
But it is, Linda said over 5,000. We're up to 5,026 parcels in town, which is just a tremendous amount. Obviously, we're 50 square miles.
Yeah.
So.
Any road nuts?
Those have pecans.
Okay. Might be a still. Here's nuts.
Terrible.
Pecan?
Yeah.
Yes. You never know how to say it. Is it pecan?
Well, one was under the bed and the other you eat.
Down south, I say pecans.
Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome.
Certainly appreciate that.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Really do.
Now we'll.
Thanks, Linda.
give your-
Which one's which? Pecan, you said not walnuts.
Yes, no, they're not walnuts. They're supposed to have almonds in them, but.
Next presentation is land use. Vanessa, you like to
Let's give it to you.
come join us? You want to make your whole presentation before we ask questions?
I just wanted to.
Okay, please do.
I'm new to the town hall since March. I just want to give you a little bit of update of what we're doing in the land use department. I know we have 6 planning board members, 1 alternate member, and our ex officio member. I'm We have a full board right now for zoning board of adjustment. We have 4 members and one alternate. We're always looking for new members. So if anybody knows anybody interested in, or anybody online that's interested in being a part of one of the boards. We also this year, we've done a site review and subdivision regulations update that hasn't been done in a few years, working on zoning amendments, updating our planning board rules of procedure and our zoning board rules of procedure. And I'd like to do look like it might be later on your agenda, but we're working right now our master plan update for our transportation and land use chapter. And we have a survey, as there's some handouts too, so please, if you haven't taken it, my shameless plug to take it now. And we're also working on a robust capital improvements plan. Going to the planning board at our next work session, and you'll probably be seeing that presentation shortly. Just to know, going over my budget line, the only big increase that I have really been asking for is a consultant fee increase. There are a lot of things that the planning board, the land use department would like to look at doing next fiscal year. So I've increased it a little bit. So that our printing has begun. Postage is going up in that, so we're probably going to go over that. We've done a lot of costs, a lot of applications with there. That's really the only changes that on my end, but I'm here to answer the question.
For the capital improvement requests that you got from different departments, are you, as a planning board, ranking or prioritizing or just sharing?
So the process right now is I'm finishing up my department head review. So each department head has given me the list of their projects. They rank them themselves. And then I do a ranking based on what they do their number one. And then when you go to the planning board, they'll look at all the projects over and either like agree with the priorities, or maybe there might be discussion of why is one more than another. Each department does justifications using why they feel like their project are the priorities that they are.
Good question. There'll be more conversation about that when it comes to the select board.
I had a question, just in the terminology. So in the narrative, it will give, like, so for example, under mileage and expenses, reimbursement of travel expenses comes from this line. And then it says this line should be at or near zero.
Mhm.
But you probably will never have that line at zero, because you'll always have some mileage, and you have that phrasing with a number of topics. You just.
Of having the near zero. So I can say, having it down as much as I can, but I use my personal vehicle to go to training.
But I would assume it would always reimburse you, so there will always be site visits and stuff. So I was just surprised to see the phrasing of this should be near zero. Because I think some of those should probably never be
True.
at zero.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
We stacked up the simple budgets tonight, which not to, we talked about how busy Linda is, over 5,000 parcels. The land use office, with the amount of applications coming in, site review, subdivision. The planning board is very busy, as Ms. Capiello knows all too well. But as is the land use office, each one of those projects and applications requires a tremendous amount of work. We talked about postage and being overspent. That's also revenue that we recover in the general fund. Applicants pay that money, but because of how municipal finance work, we budget the money, spend it, and then collect it on the other side. It just offsets the tax rate. But it's the state statute for the land use office says that the fees that we collect for applications, subdivision, site review, we're allowed to collect fees that would cover all of the costs, all the administrative costs. Traditionally, historically, Barrington has been very affordable for subdivision site review, and separate than the building department, we don't come anywhere near to collecting the staff, the administrative costs, which has been a topic over the years. But, you know, on the one hand, you know, you want to encourage the type of commercial development that expands the tax base. So you don't want to make it too difficult for those developers to come in and go through the process. But there's a lot going on in the department, no question.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Didn't hurt, did it? Relatively painless. John's online. Oh, John's. We can see John.
It's like John has a halo,
He
at
does.
least the crown.
Okay, John, you want to commence? It's number 16 in your budget binders, by the way.
Okay, everybody ready?
Morning.
Yeah, so the very beginning, which is the wages and stuff like that, I mean, the same as all the other departments, there's no need to go into it, that's beyond my control. The only thing that is in the very beginning is the last few years, we have overspent the overtime line. I still kept it the same. I'm anticipating having to do less time with land use than I have the last few years, so I didn't see a need to increase that line, even though I've overspent it the last few years. So then building equipment and maintenance, that has to do with the car. That was underspent some this year because we didn't have a car, but that's also the reason why our mileage was over, because we had to use personal vehicles. With the car this year, because our vehicles rot out before they die, I did get that oil undercoating done this year before winter got started, just so that we can, instead of getting, I know the car's figured for 10 years, we managed to get like 12 years out of the last one. Maybe this way we'll get like 14 because of keeping that underneath from getting all rusted out. My copier line, I kept the same, and that seems to work. The same thing with the communications, I kept the same. That's our phones. The training, I kept the same. We undid that a little bit, but I'm anticipating Jamie using that a little more because he's trying to get some more certifications, and they really haven't gone up on the price because the virtual ones, they charge us less money for than the in-person ones. So that's kind of the reason why we have it. We managed to keep that, you know, in line. And I believe the mileage line this coming year should be relatively good too, because of being able to do those trainings virtually instead of having to travel to Concord. Or, I mean, sometimes we still have to travel for some, but not for all of them. The dues and fees, I kept that the same. I haven't seen any increases come through. No one's talked about it. So I'm assuming they're gonna, the associations that we're members of, the Seacoast Code officials and the New Hampshire building officials, where we do get our training so that we can get our CEUs, our continuing education stuff, in order to keep our certifications once we attain them. I kind of already mentioned the mileage. I increased a little bit. Well, I actually increased a lot on the building supplies. That's where I buy my code books from. The state did adopt the 2018 code and the 2020 electric code this past year. It goes into effect January 1st, but people could choose to use it at the end of this year after July, but it wasn't mandatory. And I managed to get my code books, but I didn't get my commentary books, which kind of explains some of the codes, which works really good with the builders when you're trying to make them understand what the code is and why it's there. It's Jim would know it. Kind of the electric is the one, they call it the handbook, but it's the same idea where they explain the code sections. So that increase was to cover that. The building postage, I kept the same. My building operating supplies, that's where we buy all the stuff for the office. I put a $50 increase there. Our paper and stuff's gone up, but because we do more and more where we can send stuff electronically, we're able to use a little less paper, but at the same time, not everybody's bought into it. So I want to make sure we have enough money in that line to still cover it. The uniforms and protective gear, I kept the same. And the building equipment stuff, I kept the same. I mean, both of those are actually pretty low when you look at how we use them. So that's, Connor has it down. The three budgets that you have in front of you tonight were probably the smallest, simplest budgets that you have on the whole thing as far as the town portion goes. So
Very good.
that's my budget. Any questions?
No, good, John. Thank you very much. Very concise. Well done. Steve, Budget Committee, do you have any comments on any of these? We've kind of saved you to the last. We do have your minutes, so.
Yeah, I wanted to just then use this opportunity to thank department heads that put these three budgets together. They all were very, very well done and attended our meetings to discuss it. They answered all our questions. The one thing in the minutes that I would like to adjust a little bit is the ABC did not recommend any cuts to any of these budgets. But Linda was very gracious to say that if we needed to tap into once again all the revenues and where we're coming out in the long run, we have a little bit of slack in our budget, but we decided to leave it in there right now.
Wise choice.
Steve, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you both.
Yep.
Both members for showing up today. Thank you.
Well, we know Steve's the muscle, you know.
There.
He's a great mover.
Yeah, you ought to come to the meetings. You know that's true.
I do know.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let us go to one that may have a little more commentary. The revised library budget materials.
So I don't expect any discussion about this tonight. These materials weren't provided with the initial budget binder printout because of the director transition. The trustees stepped up to take it across the finish line. So for all the other departments, you had these materials at the beginning of the process. I wanted to pass these on ahead of time so that when we review the library budget at the next meeting, you've had a chance to review the materials. So I want to thank the library trustee chair, Susan Gaudiello, for stepping up and getting all of this put together. But I don't expect any discussion tonight. We can wait till their budget presentation.
No, anyone had any questions about the? You've had a chance, yes.
I have two questions. One is that trustees see Susan. I've had a communication with Susan asking for certain information. Susan provided it on several areas. And then what I was looking for is a vote from the trustees to accept or not accept the personnel policy that we have for our employees. I haven't seen a vote on that. I'm just looking for a vote on that. And then also, when you look at what was presented, Connor and fellow board members, the budget amount on the piece on the budget that was sent to us was $429,430. But on the back of the explanation, there was a difference of $423,809. So if that's something you could look into to turn around and make the correction before we sit down with it, was there. So
Yeah, I'm happy to address that now. This happens as the budget becomes more clear through the process. Specifically the benefits line changes slightly. In this case, you said $400. So I believe the changes that reflect are the health insurance numbers that we received from our health insurance provider. So those move the numbers a little bit from the narrative that was drafted at the beginning of the process. So that's what those changes are.
forgive me, Connor, I didn't explain myself properly. I will try again.
Okay.
On the bottom of the department head grand totals, under the total budget for the library, they show $429,430 difference. And on page 7 of the explanation, the total budget review, they have a $423,819. So what those should be looked into so we can get a
$6,000.
yeah, 6,056.11.
Okay.
So if you could look into that, maybe we'll have that ready for the next meeting.
Understood.
Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. Next, please. Okay. Consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second. Been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? I have a report on my part. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Going all the rest, appointments. Do you have any appointments?
We do not.
We're right. Staff reports. Mr. McIver.
Thank you. Yes, few things. We're going to spend a few minutes on here just for the benefit of the select board and the community. Starting, as we always do, with work anniversaries. This is the first meeting in November, and I want to recognize the employees that were historically hired in the month of November. Starting with the longest serving employee, which right now is John Janelle, who started in the fire department 24 years ago. Aaron Paradise, our highway support assistant and transfer station administrator, started in the town 14 years ago. Richard Smith in the fire department started 10 years ago. Abigail Clark started in the recreation department 6 years ago. Terrence Glazier at the transfer station 3 years ago. Peter Curtin, firefighter, started 2 years ago, and Cameron Barry in the police department started 1 year ago this month. So certainly appreciate the tenure of those employees. Look forward to many more years. Moving on to one of everybody's favorite topics, which is the tax rate. And I want to do something here to help bring full circle something that I started through the budget process last year. So on the screen up above, you're going to see a document that was put together in December of last year. And let's see if I zoom in a little bit more here. And what this document aims to do is explain to anybody that's interested how the decisions that they make at town meeting on the town side will impact their tax rate the following year. So this compares 2021 to 2022 and tries to give residents an idea of what will your tax rate be. So again, this was in the beginning of December of 2021. And so the headline of this document says that in 2022, your tax rate could be $2.95 based on the decisions that you make. And it takes a lot of guesswork to get the numbers exact. And I just want to walk through that briefly. So in your packet, you have the state form, which sets the tax rate. And this includes all the information that the state uses to determine what our tax rate needs to be in order to raise the money that's the decision of residents. So on this page, the tax rate impact document that I have on the screen here, you'll see that the budget as proposed to voters was $7.6 million. And that is part of the appropriations, which on page 2 of 4 shows the municipal appropriations. So municipal accounting overview. And this is where you hear me talk a lot about we appropriate money and it's directly offset by the revenue that we locally collect in order to determine what our total tax effort needs to be from property taxes. And so on that municipal accounting overview, if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see the $4.2 million, which is what the local government needs to raise for taxes to fund the appropriations. And that number compares to this number in the spreadsheet, the $4.1 million right there. And the two biggest differences were the war service credits. We don't know, we increased the veterans credit and the service connected total disability, but we don't know how many people are going to take advantage of that, exactly how much it's going to increase. We estimated it would amount to 406,000. And on that municipal accounting overview, war service credits, you see it's 482,000. So we're, $75,000 in the wrong direction from that. But then if you look down at our revenue, we estimated 3.9 million in locally collected revenue. And on the municipal accounting overview, the second line, you'll see net revenues at $4,013,000. So not a whole lot more, but a little bit more revenue than we anticipated. You'll remember from when I presented the most recent financial analysis that some of our revenue lines haven't been meeting their target based, we assume, on inflation and people not registering their vehicles, things like that. So we had updated our revenue projections to be even less than that 3.9 million. The big thing that filled in the gap was an even larger appropriation from the state for the rooms and meals tax. So the legislature, led by the governor last year, changed the process for distributing rooms and meals tax to municipalities back to what the legislation originally said. Originally, it was supposed to be a direct proportion of what the state collected in revenue. For years, what the state had done is the legislature had balanced the state budget using funds from the rooms and meals tax and just budgeting a flat amount to send to municipalities. It was kind of good for municipalities because they could expect what they were going to get. It wasn't variable, but it was much lower than what the statutory appropriation was. So this year, for the first time in a long time, again, a strong push by the governor to go back to that as a form of local tax relief. And so we received over $400,000 more than we did last year in rooms and meals tax. We just learned that through the tax rate setting process. But it was about $150,000 more than we anticipated during the budget development process. So hopefully that will continue to be a proportion of the rooms and meals tax collected. Hopefully people will continue to come to New Hampshire and spend their money at restaurants and lodging establishments and continue to bolster that funding source. Do you have a question, Rob?
That meals tax influx, is that reflected in this yet? Or so is it going to be a nice surprise after next year, or is that?
Nope. So that's reflected in the $4,013,000 that you see on the second line. So that is budgeted revenue. And what we'll do for next year is we'll properly budget based on our revenue collection this year for what it will be next year. Good question, though. So the last thing I want to point your attention to, so folks always ask how the tax base affects our tax rate. And I always try to simply explain it that voters decide how much we want to spend money on, what the appropriations are, and you divide that number by the total assessed value for the town. And that sets your rate and that determines how much everybody spends. So in 2021, the total assessed value was $1.39 billion. And that's this on the screen here, that's this line. And so based on a 6-year average, I estimated that the total assessed value for the town this year would be $1.405 billion. And fortunately, if you look at the bottom under valuation, again, this is on page 2, the municipal MS1, you'll see that the total assessed values was $1.415 billion. So about $10 million more than we anticipated. And that reflects $25 million in added value between 2021 and 2022. Now, of course, the bigger the number you divide by, right, the bigger the tax base is, the smaller the rate is to raise the same amount of money. So all of that reflected through our tax rate. Our municipal tax rate was set at $3 a thousand, up from $2.95. Which the one item that this tax rate impact document didn't reflect is the 2 warrant articles in 2022, which were on the tax rate that reflected a tax rate impact. And those were both of the veteran credit increases, the all veteran credit going from $550 to $650, and the service connected total disability credit, which went from $3,050 to $3,550. And so the estimated tax rate impact of those two were 4.5 cents per thousand and 1 cent per thousand, respectively. And so that's where the 5 cents comes from, bringing our tax rate from $2.95 to $3. But I know it was kind of a lot, and I'll refine how we close that loop as we continue to show this back up and provide the explanation from where our property tax rate comes from, where the money goes to. But I'm happy to answer any questions about that before we talk about the rest of the tax rate as a whole.
Good explanation.
Sure thing. So now talking about the total tax rate, obviously we have jurisdiction and control over the municipal tax rate, which went up 1.7% to the $3 per thousand, which I'll spend a whole lot of time again through the deliberative session process explaining how our tax rate being 15% of the total tax rate is in the 4th percentile statewide, very, very small proportion of the total tax rate. But the total tax rate of 1985 went up 35 cents from 1950, and the total increase 1.8%, which is really a very positive thing for residents. That added $25 million in value certainly ate up a lot of the increase that residents would have experienced. So the school increase was 2.15% over last year, and the county was actually a decrease of 1 cent, which reflects 0.5% of their tax rate, 211 down to 210. So in your packet, you received an advanced copy of the tax bill insert, which I want to thank Tiffany for putting this together with the help of staff. But the first category on there just gives a brief description overview of the tax rate, where we are and how the rate compares to years past. You'll notice that the last row in that table is percent change in valuation. So that $25 million of value reflects a 1.8% increase in our total assessed value. So if we didn't have that added value, instead of going up 1.8%, the tax rate would have gone up 3.6%. And so, this is the direct and year by year impact that added value has on the property tax rate that folks experience. Any other questions about the property tax rate setting process, that information discussed?
Thank you. I'm going to tell you that this document that was drawn up, I really must tell you, it's really complete. It takes into account questions, it takes notes, everything else in it. And also, I notice in here the help that's going to have for the elderly and everything else. I think it's going to be, it's the right time of year. This is really, really something that, I haven't received any questions about it. But I'll tell you, this will eliminate them. I got to tell you both, thanks. Thanks.
Appreciate that feedback. So on the back of the document, you'll see the exemptions and credits that are offered to residents. This is actually, you saw her here tonight, the tax collector. This was her idea a few years ago to include that information in every tax bill that goes to residents. We're very generous with the exemptions and credits we offer to our residents compared to our other towns and cities in the county and the state. You saw that in the exemption and credit analysis. But we, for 3 years now, we've included with each tax bill a listing of the exemptions and credits that are offered to residents to make sure that they know to review their eligibility, and if they are eligible, to pursue that so that, if they're being taxed out of their home and they're eligible to receive assistance, they're able to do that. And it's a level playing field based on everything that's in there. So all residents that receive a tax bill will receive a copy of this. Think on yellow paper. Yeah, on yellow paper. So that's what that information is if you receive questions about it. Okay, moving on. Something else we're really excited about. So we use the opportunity with this tax bill insert to launch an initiative to try to help bridge the gap between what we know and the information we make available on our website and through all of the various things we have going on in town and what residents actually want to know. So we've heard, and I've even heard from some of you, that it's kind of onerous to find information on the website, even if it exists, even if it's available. And part of the challenge for people in a position like mine and Tiffany is we don't know what people are looking for unless they ask us. And so, it's difficult to design the website to achieve to put what somebody's looking for right in front of their face before they start looking for it without some input. But also, we live in a society where people want that immediate response or gratification. They don't want to have to go looking. They want to, have an input and have a response. So anyways, to that end, we launched an initiative called Ask the Town, which is aimed simply at making it as easy as possible for residents to ask us questions. Ask us for information, ask us what's going on with anything so that we can connect them with, a lot of times it's going to be information that's already available on the town's website or information that should be available and we'll make available because we know people are interested in it. Right now, we're channeling the questions through an email account, ask@barrington.nh.gov. In the future, we hope to expand that and make it even easier for folks to send questions to the town. So we just started promoting the idea and have already received quite a few questions and have been able to answer them. So we're hopeful that this will be something that residents use and benefit from in having information. I've said since I've been here working in the town that my approach to openness and transparency has been a kind of a build it and they will come. So if we take every opportunity that we have to take the government that we conduct and put it on the website, make it available, put the entire budget binder on the website, all the materials, everything that the select board has and the decision makers have in the land use office, all of the application materials, making all of those available, then people will, be able to use that and be informed and make decisions. And so this is kind of the natural next step of that process in further helping to bridge that gap. So the information all already exists. We're just connecting the dots with residents. So when people ask you questions that you can't answer, direct them here. Send them straight there, and we'll get an answer back to them as soon as possible.
Is Tiffany, are you the person who's monitoring this?
Connor and I are.
I like this, great idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Hope you don't get overwhelmed. Or maybe I do.
I think that would be a good problem. Yeah, I think that would be a good problem, actually. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Yeah, we'll cross it.
If we do, there's an app for that.
Yeah.
Yes. Have you seen that webinar from Veronica's talking about actually going to people? Yeah, there's a webinar. I haven't read it.
Oh, right, we got an email about that.
Yeah, we keep getting it on the.
Granicus has reached out to us a few times.
Yeah, I think there's so many communication channels that exist in our society right now that, everything that you hear based on the research is you need to meet people, whether it's customers or residents or anything, you need to meet people where they are. The trouble is you have people in a very, very vast variety of communication mediums. Okay, so social media, you're capturing a subset of the population, especially if you're talking residents of the town of Barrington. We want to connect just as much with the, 85-year-old retired person as we do the, young family or the, the local school teacher. And so trying to, and like I said, that's why we want to make it as easy as possible for people to ask questions and receive answers and kind of connect that so we hit at everything. But like I said, my a goal for this is to start having a little bit more of a finger on the pulse of what people are interested in, what people care about, because that will guide how we share information. So, if we get, 10 calls that ask about trash bags, that we know that's something that people are interested in. We can put a temporary sign up down at the transfer station. We can get information out that's going to capture people that we wouldn't otherwise capture.
Great. Maybe for the election day or something, I picture like suggestion boxes and things, but maybe like a box of forms. People want to write down a question or something, ask the town.
It's great.
Reaching people where they're at, for those who don't go online and things like that.
Yep. Great idea. Okay, awesome. So as our esteemed town planner indicated later on, we talk about the master plan survey. So she already explained this is critically important. And I would urge the select board members and anybody listening to connect with anybody in your circles and encourage them to take the survey and participate in the process. This is, our master plan needs to be a document that accurately reflects the sentiment of residents in town. And the only way it's going to do that is if residents speak up, participate in the process. We have a fantastic subcommittee, steering committee for the updates. And they are only a subset of the residents of town and, you know, we need to hear from residents. So we'll continue that push. The survey is open until November
19th, sorry.
19th. So,
Putting the box up, so.
say that again?
They're putting the box, it's gonna be a box tomorrow.
Yeah, they'll be there all day. Yep, at voting. So, so participate in that process. Okay, 2022 state general election select board participation. In case you didn't know, we have an election tomorrow. And we're very excited. One little anecdote, the state sends us ballots. They determine how many ballots they send us. Usually it's a fraction of our registered voters. How they do the math, nobody ever really knows. This year, they sent us a ballot for every single registered voter in town, plus 800 absentee ballots for the chance that, you know, the absentee ballots, of which we have 300 to date. So the state spent the money and the time printing enough ballots for every single registered voter in the town of Barrington. And everything that they're seeing and hearing is they expect record-setting turnout. And so we're going to have a big day tomorrow. We have about 6,500 registered voters. In communities like Rochester, they have precincts. They set up precincts, entirely separate voting locations for like 2,500 or 3,000 registered voters. We do all 6,500 of our registered voters in one location at the middle school. It's a tremendous amount of staff and effort. So it's gonna be a fun day.
We have the schedule.
I'm good with 11:30 to 2.
Perfect.
Said 9 for me.
Jim, you're gonna be on.
Oh, 7 and 9.
And where should we expect to kind of be?
Bottleneck might come by the gym door.
Okay.
That's what the
Just be there
bottleneck.
to greet people?
Yeah, you sit there. Yeah, I normally point people in and registered voters and people that need to register and. And then sometimes you have to hold back the line until is there gonna be 3 checkers or more than that?
Nope, they're gonna.
They're gonna have 4.
Okay, so they'll have
but
4 people working it and you'll have to control, that's where we usually end up is that control point, so they don't get smothered in the gym.
Okay, great. Moving on. NHMA annual conference. So just another plug. It's not too late to register if you're interested in participating. They offer a very wide variety of workshops and trainings focused on municipal government. And so even if you just want to participate or one in a couple, I would encourage you to sign up. You can do it virtual or in person. I'll be there the whole time and happy to answer any questions, but that is the conference.
I'll be there the whole.
Oh, congratulations on being there. But really say it's really nice of you.
Good guy there.
Okay, the 2022 land sale auction. So for those of you that don't know, we held a land sale auction on this past Saturday, the 5th. And I am very pleased to report that we sold the 30 some odd properties that we had on the docket for a total of $424,500. So not only is that $400,000 that will go into our revenue and offset the property tax rate, but that's also 30 some odd properties that are back on the tax rolls that will, you know, again, expand that tax base. And hopefully some of these will be successfully developed to further expand the tax base as well. A couple notes on that. First, the select board is advised by a town lands committee. This is a committee that does a tremendous amount of work through the sale process of these lots. They visit the lots multiple times. They have meetings out there. They talk to neighbors. They do a lot of research to try to figure out what we should do with the property that we own and not just say, hey, sell it to the highest bidder. And so some of these properties have restrictions on them. Some of these properties on Bear River Longshore Drive, where the zoning board sees variance requests for setback requirements. And the lands committee said, hey, look, you know, there really shouldn't be a house on this lot. If somebody wants to put a camper on it, they can have it there 180 days, or if a neighbor wants to build a garage on it, they can. So that work, that doesn't happen by accident. And that's the credit to the lands committee on that. Also, when we're talking about collecting, you know, $425,000, that value comes from the fact that the people in that room bidding on these lots had access to the information to know what they were worth. So Tiffany spent countless hours aggregating all the information that we had with help from some other staff. And that's all available on the website for anybody that's interested in the lots. So that derived more value out of these lots because people were able to see every single tax lien notice, the deed notice, all of the mortgage holder information that was sent out. And so that raises the amount that these properties are worth because they don't have to do as much due diligence on their own. They have the information available to them. So some credits due there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sir,
Fee to the auctioneer.
It's a 10% buyer's premium.
Thank you very much.
And I'll, this doesn't matter as much to you all, but I preach to other administrators and managers across the state. This outfit that we use, they all charge about a 10% buyer's premium. This outfit, because they're attorneys, we signed over the power of attorney. They manage all of the closings, all of the transfers, and it doesn't cost the town a dime. And like I said, these other auction outfits that auction property, they auction it off with a 10% buyer's premium, but they're not attorneys. They turn it back over to the town to manage all the transfers. So it's really, we're fortunate to be served.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Yeah.
how did the homestead go
The homestead sold for $210,000
as a parcel?
as the whole thing, all 23 parcels, 50 acres. Yeah. And so time will tell.
Did they actually go through the individual parcels before
They did
and it came out?
more as a whole. The total for the 4 individually was like 100,000, 110,000. And we were able to get 210,000 for the unit as a whole, which isn't terribly surprising, but it was a fun process to go through. Kind of got people warmed up too,
That's
people
fair.
willing to spend their money. So,
Yeah, it was a good sale.
okay, great. Town Hall open house, we had an awesome open house. The staff here did a great job. I know some of you were there, which was fantastic. It was a great way to kind of commission the building here. So thanks for everybody that was part of that.
Pictures will be available.
Pictures of,
Ribbon cutting here with the chair.
there are pictures. If you'd like them, let me know. I can send them along.
You can send them over to me.
Got some Polaroids.
In addition, thank you, town administrator, for basically putting the whole town hall thing together, not just the open house, but the whole 4 years of this process. Thank you.
Absolutely, appreciate that.
And I must tell you, having snacks in every room, with most every room, was not just for my own benefit, but for everybody else's also. It was fantastic to see that. It really
And
was.
it really got people to move around the whole building.
Yeah. It was like.
They wanted to see what was
next.
next.
And we were. So,
The only thing I have is actually something you've already done. I requested signatures for the tax warrant, which is done,
Yeah.
as well as a notice of intent to cut wood timber for tax map 251 lots 3, 31, 41, and 4. That's it.
thank you. Very good. Old business, tax increment tip. What do we need?
Okay, so I trust that you've all read the write-up that I included in here, so I won't rehash all of that. But this is the call to the select board to do your homework and identify what items you all would like to include in the development program for this TIF district. So anything that we want to do in this area, we need to make a part of the program. We need to get on a list to build it into the program so that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, when we want to spend money on it, it needs to be included in the program. And so, as I indicated, I'm having similar conversations with interested parties across town government, the business sector, recreation, and what public safety. We'd like to get all of these lists put together and combined, and hopefully there will be duplicate entries. Hey, we'd all like to see, some lights in the parking lot or expanded parking, whatever the situation may be, parks, and see what cream flows to the top. So the select board can ultimately narrow down the development program that's part of this. this is the next step, and we need to get the items that we want a part of this on paper. So it doesn't have to be much of a discussion now unless folks have questions.
And again, this is a big thought, whether we actually want one, and if so, what do we want in it? That will affect this community for years, I think. Generations that too, or generators, but.
Jenny up there too.
Or creators.
You know, like in our conversations that we've had is that taking some of this conservation land and allowing the rec department to develop it into small little areas. You know, it's something that would really go far. And I say to Mr. Damon, who brought that to my attention on there, that's a wonderful way to go. It gives more to the town, you know, and the taxpayers would just find ways to enjoy it, just the way they do the trails. It's amazing. Thank you.
Hunter, so we were talking about this in specific to which may be a proposal before the planning, about the area that would have open space behind campus. Do you have any ballpark figure of what kind of taxes we might be looking at over a period of years that could be available through this tip?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and I actually have an appointment to meet with the town's assessor to start talking about some of those specific projections and things like that. But just as an order of magnitude, $1 million, if we added $1 million on the tax base in the district, that would equate to about $40,000 in tax revenue, which if we were in a TIF district, that would go into the TIF account to be spent on the development program details. And so, you know, they proposed 2-3-story buildings with, you know, a separate office building. We're talking, you know, well over $1 million, probably close to $2 million of value there. The Apple Green, for example, they're about 1.5 million. The Journey Church is upwards of 1.5 million in there. And obviously those, this development is a plenty.
They don't pay taxes being a church, though, right?
They do now that they have a childcare center in them, so it's proportional. So they're tax exempt, but they can't. State law doesn't allow them to use their property for commercial purpose and benefit from the tax exemption the same way.
Yeah.
So the assessor goes through a process with the building owner to determine what portion of the building, either by time or by area, or a combination in this case, is for business use and religious use.
I have a question. Is that the piece of property we have out on the north side there for, what is it, $5-6 million? The big piece out there doesn't seem to sell.
You gotta give me more than that. Town-owned property?
No, it's not. It's privately owned. And they're in the process of selling that property. Pardon?
Which
Yeah.
road?
Straight out here by Keenan Back Road area. Thank you.
Oh, residential property.
There's this property, but there's individuals looking forward to change the purpose of that. Would that be something that would go into TIF or what? They're looking to make it a kind of a residence for us.
Was that the property that was on sale for $10 million?
Yes, that's correct. I couldn't have the exact price. And somebody brought up that they were looking to make for some of the needy people. They were looking to change the status of that. They were looking at, this company from Texas was looking to buy it. Has anything come to the planning board?
Nothing.
Yeah.
So to your question about how that would relate with a TIF district.
Yes.
So it depends on where the boundaries of a TIF district are drawn. So
Okay.
there are limits. Any one TIF district cannot exceed 5% of the land area. So Barrington's 50 square miles, right? So and then 8% of the total assessed value of the town can't be within one TIF district. So you can draw the district however you want. We've been talking about it mostly as the town center village district, maybe some regional commercial. So out from 9 and 125 somehow. So I don't think an area out there would automatically be included in the TIF districts we're talking about. But I would also want to further, have a conversation about how a TIF district could support or benefit a change of use like that. I think outside of 9 and 125, the town doesn't really have a centralized focus, areas of development. And so if, a property in a more rural part of town were to be developed, what supporting infrastructure would the town want to have there versus at 9 and 125, where you have multiple businesses, a lot of commercial development. So.
I was drawn to that conversation the last 2 weeks, so it's just.
That's a good question, though.
And could draw to there, it shows.
Absolutely.
More than one tip.
You can.
Yeah, that's good to know then. Okay, I'll talk to the chair and then you can take it from there. Thank you.
Yep. Just out of curiosity, when I say 5% of the land area, is that for each TIF district or total TIF district?
That's for each TIF district, and there are limits.
How many?
Yes.
Do they still have Main Street grant programs? Like Durham had years ago, the Main Street program, had a Main Street coordinator that would kind of help do this planning.
We can look into that. So economic recovery zones is another one, the ERZ zones, like the revitalization. And yeah, we can look at how that could interplay with the TIF district and the coordination of that. It's a great suggestion.
All right.
So you have your homework, and I indicated in here, we need to finalize our program really by the end of November. So hopefully at the next meeting, and you all can send me items ahead of time and I can aggregate them ahead of time, or we can have the discussion at the meeting, doesn't matter to me. But really at the next select board meeting, we need to iron out what the select board wants as part of the program. And then at the last meeting in November, we'll bring everything together and finalize it. Because once we have something concrete of what we want, we need to start pushing to voters about telling them what this is about, what it means, what's possible. And that will take a couple of months leading up to the town meeting vote. So.
But we have the option of adding to districts later.
Yes. And you can make changes to the one that you have, but voters have to do it. That authority is held with voters. So as much as we can include everything we might want ahead of time and draw the lines where are, reasonably appropriate ahead of time, the less opportunity or, the less likelihood that we'll need to change it down the road.
Sure.
Can we turn around and do an open area? In other words, we would like to establish three areas in the town. At the determined date, would you allow the select board to turn around and is that something, or does it have to be more specific when it's brought to the voters?
Specific, it's the voters' decision.
So you couldn't get a general average? Okay, thank you.
And yeah, but the legislative body has responsibility in SB2.
Yep.
Setup.
Yeah, okay, that's just a question, we know, I thought.
Okay.
Great.
Facilities management, highway winter maintenance. Discussion.
Okay, so again, I trust that you have read everything that's in here. So a couple of high points. Last time we talked, I explained how the school has stopped providing facility management and facility support for the town. That's a huge loss to the town. We have about $9 million worth of facilities and nobody in charge of them, nobody maintaining them. And that's a huge hole. One of the other, the conversation about that hole took a lot of time and a lot of turns. We, staff and myself, evaluated a lot of possibilities to try to figure out what we would propose as a solution. So I'm not going to belabor you with that entire process or every idea that we came up with, but this is the cream that floated to the top. During that same process, in talking with the road agent, the highway department, as part of their winter maintenance plan, has always had a part-time employee that just does winter maintenance. They come in, they drive a town vehicle and plow for us. He was a retired full-time member of the highway department. He's retiring for good. He's no longer going to be available this winter for winter maintenance. And Mark has tried desperately to hire additional winter contractors or somebody part-time to come and drive our equipment. It just isn't a reality based on the demand and the money that's in it. And you've heard some of that from him before. Glad to have the people that we have, but there's no line of people coming in the other side. So Mark has a hole in his winter maintenance system. But that's further complicated by the fact that we have more roads to plow, right? We've accepted roads. We have a parking lot down at 9 and 125 now that needs to be kept open. This parking lot is bigger than the old town hall. We have sidewalks here that need to be cleared. And so Mark really communicated concern that he had on the staff, the team that he has, and the hole, and not sure how to fill it. And so what I'm proposing to the select board as the best solution to the problems that we have is a combined position that we're calling a working facilities manager, somebody who would be responsible for all of the facilities, coordinating any work that needed to be done by outside contractors, but also doing a lot of the work themselves, looking for somebody that has experience there. But then also they would be in a plow truck or behind a snow blower during winter maintenance activities to be part of that winter maintenance team to fill in the gaps that exist there. I was fortunate to have an opportunity to meet with Select Person Bailey, who obviously, for those of you who don't know, spent his professional career after military service in facilities management. He knows this world, and we talked out and kind of refined the idea of what a working facilities manager could look like and how it would solve the needs that we have. So that's the process. That's the proposal. Obviously the unfortunate part is nothing is free, and we do have part-time funds available in the highway department that we paid that part-time employee from that amount to about $20,000. But assuming worst case scenario or the maximum possible liability for a full-time position with benefit elections, it would add about $60,000 to the budget to have this position meeting those responsibilities, those duties and responsibilities. So I included a draft job description because it helps me to kind of look and see on paper, hey, is this a full-time position? What are they actually going to be doing? And so this was just as much for my benefit as it would be for yours in helping to make a decision. But I'm looking for some direction from the select board, what you think about the idea and what direction we might go. Last thing I wanted to mention is this, and Jim said it perfect. This is a unicorn, right? This person that is willing to get behind a snow blower, get in a plow truck, get on a ladder and replace a ballast, unclog a toilet, and create a facilities maintenance plan for $9 million worth of facilities is a unicorn. But I think that this is what we need. And I think we need to start with what we need. I think we need to try to get somebody who can do all of these things. And when we can't, then we move on to plan B. If we can.
One of the discussions was trying to continue with our policy on safety. And that was part of my direction that I was trying to focus with Connor. We had some twists and turns what we did, but still came down to be the best thing for the town and for responsibility was to have this a full-time position. And something that would be there, so there wouldn't be any questions on a day-to-day basis.
Go ahead, Mr. Gibson.
So this is more than it's not just supervising and oversight. They're actually going to be doing the plowing. They're going to be doing the cleaning the toilets. They're going to be doing all of these things too, or?
I don't think they'll be doing a lot of cleaning of toilets, but hey, the toilet's not flushing. They're going to come over, they're going to respond to that call themselves and identify if it's something they can fix or if they need to bring in the contract plumber to do it.
Will we still have a need for certain sort of on the ground custodial services, or will we have that covered?
Yeah, so two separate things. So the custodial plan will remain the same. We have right now, we have 3 staff custodians. We have one that is part-time, just as the town hall. We have one that's part-time that we hired from the school, that does the public safety building, the recreation side of the recreation library building and the highway garage, and one that does just the library. So this position would be proposed to supervise the two custodians, not the library custodian. They want to maintain supervision of that employee. But right now I supervise the two custodians. And so it doesn't, I don't expect that they'll be doing custodial, but they will be coordinating the custodial work that's done.
I was confused now. I was remembering the need for custodial help. So when it comes to like the winter maintenance,
Mhm.
shoveling sidewalks and things, would this person be doing that actual labor then?
Mhm. Yes. That would be the plan. Because that's a need that we have. And so when this position would be part of the winter maintenance team, that, you know, how Mark decides to delineate the work based on the equipment that they have and the rest of the routes and personnel, I would expect that this position would most likely be doing parking lots, you know, maybe this parking lot down there and the walkway here, keeping this building open, and things like that. So.
It might be required more.
Might be, yes, depending on, their qualifications, you know, if they have a CDL, which we indicate the requirement that they don't have to have a CDL when they come on, but we'll support their acquisition of a CDL so that we can put them in one of the 6-wheel trucks if need be.
You need a motion to proceed with this or?
Motion on the Shamrock.
Don't jinx me now. If the select board feels comfortable making a decision, the decision would require a motion, decision from the select board. If you need more information, you want to talk about it next week, we can do that as well.
You know, the setup, we're really asking a lot, but I think it's the way to go. And then we can turn around and look at it later on, refine this and see what it is. But, you know, these are all the things that could possibly happen, go wrong, however you want to look at it, you know, so we can, so that's some of the twists and turns that we had when we put this together.
I guess the question is, do we want to think about this put this off till next week and then make a decision, or we have enough information right now to make a decision?
I'm ready to make a decision.
This is November. I'm not trying to be a smart ass, no. It's November and the cold weather and the snow,
I understand.
so, you know, and so I agree with Scott.
Yeah, it's like cold weather like we've had the last 2 days. Good.
Yeah, thanks.
Rob, is this position under Mark or under you?
It's shown as shared supervision. So for the facilities component, that's supervision received on the first page under the summary. For the facilities responsibilities, I'd be their direct report, and Mark will direct their work during winter maintenance.
I would just, I'm comfortable, I guess, making a decision, but I think with running blind, I think maybe we could have, you know, one or maybe two of our individuals start now and being like, if there's obvious issues, like, hey, you know, the parking lot lights are out at the rec, or you know what I mean, or something like that. We have somebody in spot now. It might not be like the working foreman type that you're looking for, but it can get us to where we can hire or whatnot contractors to come in and do it. Wow, we're looking for this. And when that person comes on, those people or persons go back to regular duty.
It's an excellent point. I have to give a lot of credit. When I first reported that we lost our facility support from the school, I gave credit to the different department heads and, you know, building supervisors throughout the town that have stepped up to the plate to fill in the gaps. When there's a problem, instead of bringing my phone off the hook, they are taking the steps to either work with the highway department, do what they can. The public safety building is great because they have a wide variety of employees that they're willing to ask to do some of that work. And so in the short term, we have been well served by people stepping up to the plate and willing to go the extra mile to get things taken care of. And I've appreciated that most because the alternative is calling me and having it be my problem, which isn't sustainable. So we have been doing that work that has worked well. And I appreciate you recognizing that it's not a long-term solution, but gets us by,
Right.
gets us by.
Yeah. So,
So I'll move that we go ahead with the working facilities, posting a working facilities manager job description.
Second.
Based on what we have in front of us.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
That's a full thing.
That's full time.
Mhm.
Okay. Want to do it by roll call? Capella
Aye.
Mr. Coach,
Hell, yeah.
and Shrek on. Okay, we're good.
Thank you. I'll keep you all posted.
Yeah.
And if you know any unicorns,
Yeah.
send
Call now.
them my way, unless they work for you. I wouldn't ask you to do that.
Okay. All right.
I thought George was gonna come out of retirement.
That is the best joke tonight. There you go.
You see his encore lanyard, he's too busy supporting.
Oh, this is when I have my key to get in and out of the office.
Okay. Are we ready to move on to the equalized ratio and assessing services? Questions?
Like a brief explanation or?
Do this every other year anyway, don't we? We have.
Well, we have been because the market's been so crazy.
So the question is whether we do it soon or wait until.
So really the question is whether you include money in the budget to do it. You're not gonna have to, the select board won't have to pull the trigger and make a final decision on doing it until spring, March, April timeframe, really. And the numbers right now say that you should probably do it. We're 20% off being having our assessed values meet the labor or meet the housing market. And so if we continue to go farther away, then that's only gonna make the jump bigger. The time between now and spring, we might see those sale numbers come in closer to 90% and start trending in that direction. And we might say, hey, let's hold off and not do it. But we're talking about putting another $25,000 in the budget in order to make that money available. And the tough part is we'd have to make the decision early enough in the year that it would be kind of difficult to wait and use maybe potential surplus to fund a project like this that we could do if it was later in the year.
So you're saying we're gonna add an extra 25,000 to your budget?
So if you are interested in having that being an option, then we'd add 25,000 to the assessing budget. Right.
What would be the consequences, as you just explained? Is there any ramification that could really hurt us? Do you think there would be enough in the fund that we can take it out of and not have to do this?
I would be uncomfortable at a $25,000 price tag. I would be uncomfortable not including money in the budget if we think there's a better than 50% chance we're gonna do it.
That answered my question, okay. A motion? What do you want to do, Mr. Chairman?
We could do that, but it's not in the budget, but it doesn't come from like an incident fund or something.
Right.
So we could also, if it was, too much to put in the budget, we could also put half of it, right?
Mhm.
Half of it forward or something like that.
Yep, add, 12,500 to the incident fund with the idea that, we want some of that money available. So then if you pull the trigger, then you're only,
It's hard to hit.
So we put a line item on your budget? Is that how it works, Chairman?
well, Select Person Gibson was suggesting adding some of the money to the incident fund.
Big part of your budget.
On somebody's budget. Big line item, or you just want to turn around and take it out of the incident fund at the end when it comes there. So let's do nothing now and then wait until next.
Well, if we do something now, but if the 25,000 was too much, if we did half of it or something, so that's just a little bit easier.
So we put half of it in his budget now, and then take the other half out of the incident fund.
The existing.
Yes. Yeah, if need be.
If we had to, we could take it out, but so you're saying just put 12.5 in now,
Right.
and then turn around and if need be.
Yeah.
Then we could both turn around, take it out of the incident fund if necessary.
Right, unless the 25,000 is deemed not that big a hit to the budget. But,
How safe do you feel with that, Mr. Driver?
Yeah, I think that that's reasonable. And we can also ask for input from the budget committee. I can do that at tomorrow's meeting if you'd like, before, making a final decision. But really the headline is where we are. I mean, you remember 4 years ago, we raised values total across town an average of 14%. 2 years ago, we raised values on average across town 20%. And you have to remember that the goal of assessed value is simply to match the housing market. So it's the fair market value for everything. And that's how much values have risen in Barrington just in the past 4 years. And here we are just 2 short years later, not even 2 full years later. And we're already looking at the need for a 20% correction. And, it seems like the majority of economists will tell you that we should start to see that head in the other direction. The Fed adding another, 3/4 of a point.
interest rates are,
Mhm.
I think all the indicators are gonna say that the values are probably gonna go down. So,
But then at the same time, looking at, and the assessor and I have a lot of these more theoretical conversations, the demand at Barrington is so high and the supply is so low that we have been so insulated from the fluctuations that other communities have seen. I mean, anybody that has a Zillow account and watches the town of Barrington, it is a rarity to see a single family home pop up as for sale. And, the developments like this are getting scooped up faster than they can build them. The units across from the middle school that are rental units are getting scooped up faster than people can. So the demand to live in Barrington is so high that it'll be interesting to see. So, if the housing market as a whole starts to head the other direction, what's going to happen to Barrington? And so I will talk to the budget committee about it tomorrow. It seems like there was general support for maybe adding 12.5 to the incident fund to soften the blow if the select board did need to do this. And then we'll make a decision farther in the process.
But before we make our presentation to the public, we still have an opportunity. I'm in favor of doing 12.5, but at the last minute, if we had to change it before we made the presentation to the public, then we could turn around and go that way. Because the reason I say that is about every 4 to 6 weeks, I get somebody sending a note saying, this is what we can do. That little cottage I have, and it's unbelievable, it really is. And what some of these have gone for back here have just skyrocketed. So, I mean, it's good for us. And you got the drawing point of the school. So that's another thing that's really keeping our town up. So.
But it sounds like we're all in for setting up these.
Especially when they pull up.
Yeah,
the facility.
but before we make the presentation to the public, we can turn around and have a definite point there, and then after the budget committee turns around, and looks at it too, with their input, we'd be sitting there, so.
Yeah,
I would like to wait.
the budget committee's gonna meet tomorrow anyway, so
Yeah.
we'll probably make their presentation too, so. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Anything else?
Good idea, Rob.
Okay. New business. Select board member reports. Scapio.
So there are 2 planning board meetings since our last meeting. The one on November 1st, I was unable to attend due to illness. On October 25th, it was a work meeting. Jen Rosen from the Stratford Regional group was there for talking about a grant that was available for updating the master plan in terms of housing and demographics. And that's because of the new census data being available. So we updated it in 2016, and we have some that should be updated before we do this one. But because there's specific money to do this one, the planning board thought it made sense to go ahead and apply for that. There are other parts to that pot of money that the planning board was not so interested in at this point, having to do with affordable housing. Because we didn't know, so some of it had to support, the planning board looking at zoning, changes for subdivisions and site things. And the planning board just didn't know where affordable housing fit into the various plans. There's been a lot of negative in feedback to the planning board about the apartment buildings that are not affordable housing, but that were built. So, but we didn't really have to make a decision on those next phases. That was accurate. At some point. There will be some zoning, new zoning ordinances that will come forth. The final wording is probably not solid yet. I think this one was there last year, which was changing the zoning of 10 lots from the town center to the village district, both for single family and multiple family. And then of course there would be some possibility for commercial development.
And what area were they talking about that?
Nine, so Christmas Dove over, but Christmas Dove west. Lots in there.
That wouldn't affect the watershed, would it? Okay.
All those lots are in the stratified drift aquifer that, you know, same area.
Well, I was just asking if that was taken into consideration, because that was one of the reasons why years ago we never took that option for the town hall there. Because of the aquifer. Thank you, sorry.
Yeah.
Any interruption.
So that would be discussion, I guess, at town meeting if this goes forward. The next was to add a section, a whole section on signage in Barrington. And so they're thinking of 3 specific ones. One was just to clarify language around removing signs, that nobody could essentially remove or destroy a sign unless it was your property, or unless the property owner gave you permission to do that. And you couldn't destroy the signs that were on public property, or law enforcement could do it. So that would be one. I think we all sort of knew there was some RSA, but just tightening up the language. The second one is if a political sign is abandoned, the town could dispose of it and only have to hold it for 60 days, to clarify that. The third one is that signs, we would be saying in this article that signs could go up 60 days before an election. There was discussion, but no real, resolution of the discussion of changing the minimum lot size from 80,000 square feet to 120,000 square feet. I need more discussion about that. And then we're working on clarification of rules and procedures for the planning board, particularly around public comment.
What signs after the election? 60 before, you're about after.
60. No, not that far.
The second Friday.
Yeah.
The state law says, RSA says Friday week.
Right, that's why I think that wasn't addressed.
Okay.
Mr. Gibson.
No meetings since last time we met, but this Thursday is Conservation Commission.
Coach.
We had Fall Fest over at the rec with the Spooky Walk. It was a great turnout. Jesse was really thrilled about all the departments, including the Tricentennial Committee, and seeing the residents and everybody come together was something really awesome. Also, they're starting youth basketball season and round 2 of adult programming. That's what we got into it.
I have nothing to report.
You have the minutes from the last ABC meeting tomorrow at 4:30. School board discussed their budget, and it's whatever they do. The budget for the elementary school stayed the same. And for ECLC and the middle school, that both went up. Again, they're holding a little bit less than 1% over their last budget. So they also discussed some policies which parents will get required short, like, okay, required policies. Once they voted, they're all first reads, so it'll take some time. And then the transfer station, they hasn't met last week. Anything else?
One motion to adjourn.
No, we have public meetings, and then I think we have a non-public. So this will be the second public comment. Again, I would reiterate, you need to, if you want to speak, you need to recite your name and address for the record. Visitors should address comments to the chair and the select board as a body and not to any individual member. Each speaker should be provided a single opportunity for comment, limited to 3 minutes. The visitors should not expect to respond to their comments or questions, since the select board may not have discussed or taken a position on the matter. Public comment is not a two-way dialogue between speakers and the select board and or the town administrator. I will preserve strict order and decorum at the meetings. Is there anyone? Oh.
Hey,
Please.
I'm here representing the Tricentennial Committee. We were very excited. The Spooky Walk brought in about 2,000 people to walk through the Spooky Walk. So people in the committee worked hard on that for 3 or 4 weeks to get it set up, and then a lot of work for 2 days prior to. And so to be able to run a couple thousand people within about 3 hours was actually pretty neat. Kudos to them people that did all the work to pull that off. We took the banners down. Casey O'Brien took them down for us over the weekend. We had decided that we were going to offer each town building a banner. So I'm here to ask the board of selectmen if they would like to give one of the banners to put somewhere in the building.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you. And a little bit of a shameless plug for those that are going to be at voting tomorrow, and for those of you that listen to this out in the audience. Ron St. Jean and his wife Diane, along with the Tricentennial Committee, are putting together it's not really a yearbook, but most of us old people call it, but it's a Tricentennial review book. It'll be about an 80-page coffee table type book. Pre-sales are going to be taken tomorrow at town voting for $35. They'll be printed sometime after the first of the year, because we want to capture the few events that we have left, including the soiree, which will be our last official event for the Tricentennial. So there's a shameless plug if anybody's interested. There'll be a book there that kind of shows the cover on the back. Cover a yearbook there so you can see it. And then there's a collage of Ron's pictures that kind of have an idea of what's on the inside. But we got a little bit of a sneak preview at a meeting last week. The layout was about half done, and Ron really did in my humble opinion, did a great job of capturing the essence of what the Tricentennial was for us. The kids sitting there eating a hot dog, waiting for the fireworks, or smiling, waiting for the parade, or the people. So we're pretty excited about that. So it's a pain with for everybody to think, people. Thank you.
Don't look too shamed. Anyone else? Comments? Anyone online, if you'll raise your hand if you're on Teams. For those listening in audio, if you'll dial *6. And then unmute yourself when you're recognized. A lot of hands up.
I saw a hand go up. Susan,
Oh, Susan Danielle.
maybe.
Maybe Susan Danielle.
Hi,
Yes.
I wanted to share with the board that the library trustees and the Library Foundation will have a table also at the polls tomorrow. And the main purpose of our being there is to reach out to residents. And we're beginning the process of really taking a fresh look at plans for a new library that would be brought forward at a future year. And we'll be doing a little online survey and paper survey as well. So I hope that not only will people who are watching the meeting stop by, but also those of you who will be there tomorrow, do stop by our table and weigh in on the questions that we're most seeking answers to as we work on our preparations for the future. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Anyone else online? And up next,
Nope. I see no more hands.
we're out of hands. No one seems to be calling. In that case, we'll end the public comment. I think we actually have some discussion on non-public, so could have a motion to go to non-public for personnel.
Motion to go with non-public personnel.
I said.
All those in favor? Oh, yeah, we'll do roll call.
Kathy and Blind.
Gibson, aye.
Fairly nice.
Madam Chair, Don. And Chief Joy, if you could stay for this session, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, everyone. Welcome back to public session for the 7th of November Select Board meeting. Entertain a motion to seal minutes.
I would like to make a motion to seal the non-public minutes for 6 months.
Capello, aye.
It's nice.
Koshak,
Bailey,
And Trick, aye.
would like to make a motion to adjourn the select board meeting tonight.
Second. All in favor?
yeah.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay,